Good afternoon, everybody. It's Graham Coath here with another MyMusic. It's 3:45 on a Thursday afternoon. Time for this.
I need to get going, Mel. See you later.
There you go. You're now enlightened, John. That is.
I could do it if you could see the rickety setup that I've got this laptop on the minute. I could do with one of those, and I don't endorse things lightly.
No. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's see if we can get you one. Yeah,
that's what I'm here for.
We could sort that out. They might want you to do like a little review where you go, "Look what I've got here, children."
Oh, like I'll do anything for free stuff.
Okay, brilliant. Well, that's exactly what the sponsors like to hear. But this is it. This is a Nexstand for all of you that are watching this in Radio Land. This is brilliant. This bit. So yeah, that's what it does. It folds down flat, folds up like that, and then you put your laptop in the top. Marvelous. And actually, yeah, very, very good. Especially actually if you're DJing off of your laptop.
Is that right?
Hence the little picture in the corner. I don't know whether you can see that.
Oh yeah, I can see there.
Yes. There you go. Yeah, absolutely perfect. Above the decks and all of that. So you're coming live from Spray Studios. That's marvelous.
Here we are, about a few miles north of Preston, which itself is about 40 miles north of Manchester, England.
Yes, England, UK. And I said to you just before we came on, I do actually have a little story about Preston.
It's very exciting. I'm very keen to hear it.
Yeah, and it goes like this. So when I was at university, for some reason, I missed out on all of the exciting field trips that were available, Iceland and Poland and such. But I managed to get a field trip to Preston. And it was in a class that's called Ethnicity and Cultural Diversity. And if you haven't gone to sleep, boys and girls, you're about to. Anyway, Preston at the time, and I don't know what it's like now, but it did have some working establishments, shall we say, that had a lot of people that had come from abroad working in them. And the aim of the field trip, which I never felt particularly comfortable with, was that we needed to go and ask immigrants who had come over here to work what it felt like to be immigrants working in the UK. Now, I don't know about you, John, but I don't think that's a really good idea.
Not particularly, no.
No. So I enjoyed my day out in Preston. I didn't actually do the assignment as tasked.
That's the ticket.
But I did find a nice pub.
What we're famous for? That and the bus station.
There we go. Station. So there you go. That was my exciting foray into Preston, and yeah, it was.
That's exciting.
It was. Yeah, it wasn't. Well, it could have been more exciting if I'd have actually done the task in hand. I feel.
Did you just make it up in the end?
Just made it up.
Yes,
just made it up. Yeah, yeah. Was that your way forward when you came to study and stuff?
Broadly speaking, yeah. I mean, nobody really checks, do they? To be honest.
No. As long as you get the words in the right order, doesn't really matter.
2 diagrams.
Diagrams. Now that's important, isn't it?
Yeah. So much space filled with a diagram.
Great band as well. If people remember diagrams. Do you remember? There you go.
I'm aware of their work.
I am aware. I have every album. So where did music start for you, sir?
When Spray is a band, and it's me and my sister. When we were kids, we moved house, and because we moved house, we didn't go on holiday. And to sort of satisfy me and my sister, our parents bought us presents, and my sister got this little dinky little toy keyboard, and neither of us had really any musical interest up until then, but we started tinkering about with it, making the drums go and things like that. And very gradually, as time went by, we got little bits and bits more equipment until at some point we had a little home studio in our house.
Yeah,
And almost by accident, we sort of turned ourselves into a pop duo.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Can you actually remember what that original keyboard was?
I can, and it's here in the room somewhere.
Oh my word! You
Bear
still
with
have
me,
it.
viewers.
You
Bear with
still
me.
have it. Cool. Look at that.
There's no batteries in it at the minute,
No.
but it's the Yamaha PSS 170.
Oh,
If you can see that,
who
Small-
didn't have one of those at one point?
small little keys and no
Yeah.
MIDI facilities, but it
No.
makes some really lovely little digital sounds. It does, very nice.
Am I right in thinking it did have a jack out?
Oh yes, the
Had
jack
a
out,
jack out. Yeah.
and there is a power supply for it somewhere, but it's
Yeah.
mainly a sort of battery-powered, rinky-dink little Bontempi Yamaha keyboard.
Yeah, no, yes, fantastic. Actually, the first keyboard we had, you mentioned that, the first keyboard we had in our house was one of those little Bontempi organs.
Mm.
Yeah, with the fan,
Right.
fan. Yeah, so
You play chords with your left hand, with one finger chords.
correct. One finger chords with your left hand, and it had that, obviously because of the fan, it had that kind of, it had that kind of modulation on every single note, which was, which would have been fun had it been able to kind of do anything fun with that.
Anything else?
Anything else? Oh, and it did have a little drum machine built in.
This sounds quite a hipster piece of kit these days. You could get a 6 music session out of this.
I really reckon you could. And it had on the drums bossa nova. Yeah.
You can't beat a bit of bossa nova.
Yeah. So that was it, really. I think actually everything in the little book that came with it was bossa nova time. Regardless of what it was.
20 pages of bossa nova versions of the classics.
Yeah, it's that famous Rod Stewart number, Maggie May in bossa nova. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, no. So that was the first keyboard. So what did you progress onto from that?
Well, this is where we turned into again almost back. Nothing's planned in our career. Almost by accident, we turned into the Cuban Boys. We had a hit with it. What had happened was I'd got a sampler for my Atari ST. It was a tiny little sampler that plugged into the side of an Atari, and it could sample 4 seconds of audio. And the only thing we could find to sample was a loop from a record called Cuban Boy. So we made this strange hip hop record out of this loop of a sample called Cuban Boy. And in the absence of a better name, we called ourselves the Cuban Boys and sent it to John Peel. And John Peel, against all the odds, played it. And we ended up with a record deal. And
that's just amazing.
It's not the most interesting story, but it's broadly how it happened.
Yeah. And I mean, when you've got a name like that, the Cuban Boys, was there a massive temptation to do a bit of a Milli Vanilli at that point? And,
what do you mean?
But
why do you think we haven't already?
Yeah. I mean, I'd go and find, the most 2 Cuban-looking people that I could possibly find, and
you see, that's why you would have made a success of the Cuban Boys and we didn't. That's an excellent commercial idea from a marketing standpoint that we didn't think of because we were these weirdo experimentalists doing John Peel sessions and refusing to appear in pictures. Whereas if we'd have just fronted it with 2 Milli Vanilli types, we could have gone on for years having novelty hits.
Absolutely. Did anyone offer you a sponsorship at the time for any kind of Cuban cigars? I mean, that
they
must have
didn't.
been
No. I vaguely remember our management trying to get us all sorts of sponsorship deals, but nobody was particularly interested. But Cuban cigars would have been very agreeable.
Yeah, I actually. What sort of date are we talking about there?
This is 1999. This was the millennium. It was our hit, viewers.
Yeah,
it was Christmas 1999. We were up against Cliff for the Christmas #1.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's the funny thing about sponsorship in that period. There was some weird sponsorship, very weird sponsorship. A little bit earlier than that, when I was in the band in the 90s, we were sponsored by, I think I can say it now because I don't think they even exist, a company called Global Hypercolor.
Oh yeah, the wacky T-shirts.
You remember it?
I remember
Yeah.
the wacky T-shirts.
Yeah. As sold by C&M.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marvelous, absolutely marvelous. And until you get on stage and you're sweating your backside off.
Were you obliged to wear solely global hypercolor
For a while, yes.
garments?
And it was like, okay, you know where I'm sweating. This is not a this is not a this is why a lot of reason this is a reason why a lot of bands wear black. Right?
Yeah.
Because it hides all ills, you know. But yeah, when you suddenly you turn around and you look at your guitarist and you go, you've got hands all over you, mate. But without anyone touching you, it's just wrong. It's a
good gimmick. It's a good gimmick.
Well, yeah, it is. But and this is the daft thing about it. It was actually quite thick material, so it did make you sweat as well. It wasn't as though you know.
Yes.
It wasn't. There was some weird fashion at the time, wasn't there? I mean, do you remember back slightly further than that? You know, when everyone else wore shell suits, and they started wearing shell suits to clubs. No, I never have.
Never owned a shell suit, but I quite fancy a shell suit jacket these days. Maybe not the pajama bottoms, but a shell suit jacket.
What, an actual jacket? Yeah,
a big shell suit jacket. I reckon I could carry off quite well these days in this day and age.
Yeah,
I might look into it. I'll get on eBay when this is finished.
I did.
If they haven't all dissolved or burnt or whatever happens to old.
I did love those. I love those trends at that time. Do you remember some of the rappers, and they used to go for the chains as well at the time? And a friend of mine and I, we did a radio show at the time at a festival, and he decided to get hold of a load of big alarm clocks, and literally went to B&Q and got that white garden chain that you put on your fencing outside, sort of thing. And there we were with the chains and the big alarm clocks.
That is glorious.
It was.
It's a visual image, and I enjoy the mental image.
Yeah. So in terms of influences for you at the time, I mean, it sounds like music for you was just having fun.
It was. We were trying to be a bit like the KLF to a certain extent, in that we were trying to make pop records, but pop records that weren't normal pop records, and also pop records.
But you never burnt £1 million anyway.
We burnt £5.
You burnt £5.
Symbolic £5, and to us that was £1 million.
Yeah, to feel like you were fitting in. Yeah.
That was it. We were a pop group, but we'd come from the John Peel area, so we never quite fitted in anywhere in the system. If you sort of
did you enjoy the music press of that time as well?
It was good fun. We used to do these press days where we'd sort of sit in a nightclub or somewhere, or an open nightclub during the day, and we'd sit there and they'd traipse various European journalists past us, and we'd answer all sorts of things. And it was a lot of fun for a time. You can see why pop stars get sick of it, but as we were pop stars for about a fortnight, it was great. It was a great deal of fun, and we loved every minute of it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I mean, because that was the period of Eurotrash and all of that sort of thing as well. So there was a proliferation of music journalists from abroad as well. What was the most daft question you ever got asked then?
They asked us to pull faces. The Europeans loved people pulling faces. So if we were doing a little video interview, they'd say, "Could you pull a face so that we can cut it in at the start?" And I was going, like that or something. And obviously, we were trying to be this cool band who had a novelty hit by mistake. So we were trying to really go the other way and make ourselves dead serious. So we absolutely refused to do it. And I have never seen it. So God knows what the Germans ended up with, but I assume it was just us staring at the camera looking all morose.
Yeah. In terms of what you listened to as music, though, was that quite different as you developed as a musician? Was that quite different from what you were actually making? Or
it was a bit, actually, because Spray is synthetic pop music. It's jovial synth pop music, and that's largely what I like, and it's mainly what Jenny likes as well. But with the Cuban Boys being this sort of slightly avant-garde techno, big beat, all those elements, and it was just we sort of found ourselves in this niche that we didn't really know a great deal about. And the fact that our records, we tried to make our records that sounded commercial and mainstream and normal and like everybody else's, but they always came out a bit wrong. And I think that's why people quite liked us.
Well,
Certainly why John Peel liked us, because
Yeah.
our records didn't really sound like anything else.
Yeah. So what were you listening to then? That was
People like Sparks and Pet Shop Boys. Then all that 90s Euro pop I loved as well. That's that kind of stuff. And then I think by the time the Cuban Boys came out, there was a bit of resurgence of pop. There was people like Christina Aguilera and Britney and the Nest Club and stuff like that. All the sort of the bubblegum pop had started coming back again after those years of Britpop and all the sort of seriousness. So it's always been pop music we enjoy. And hate as well. There's an equal parts hate and love relationship with pop music that everybody has, and that's what I like. I love pop music, and I hate a lot of it as well.
Yeah, it's kind of lost its way now a little bit, and I partly kind of blame that on I kind of blame that on politics as much as anything, and the politics that have gone on. But I also think that it never kind of recovered fully from the loss of Terry Wogan. But growing up at that period as well, you must have loved the Eurovision Song Contest. We
did. We Spray as children. We put in a couple of songs when you could send them off to the BBC with a cheque for £70 in and enter your songs. And we never got anywhere other than a nice letter back. But we've watched ever since my year zero. My year zero for pop was Bucks Fizz winning the Eurovision. That's the first time I really cared about pop music, because there's this definite moment in my memory where I can remember before and after Eurovision 1981.
Yeah,
not caring about pop and suddenly caring about pop. So we've always watched, we've always enjoyed it.
For ages, we used to, annoy our parents, didn't we? Because we would try and reenact that whole bit with the ripping off of the skirts.
Everybody's done it.
Everybody's done it. Don't do it at discos, folks. Not these days. It's
not nowadays. No, not in the current climate.
No,
you can't do that now.
No, it's forbade now. Sorry about that. So, but I mean,
sorry.
Yeah, go on.
The point is, we then ended up years later going to Eurovision. Swivel.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
Daz Sampson, our good pal Daz Sampson, who I started working with after the Cuban Boys sort of dissolved, behind the scenes in a backroom sort of way. We produced dance records and things, but then we got asked to do a song for Eurovision, so we sent in Teenage Life, and against all the odds, we got through and ended up in Greece representing the country at Eurovision.
What was that like?
It was remarkable. A lot of the time you do crazy pop star things, you always think back and think, oh, I wish I'd enjoyed that more at the time, because you don't really realise what's happening. But with Eurovision, every moment was an absolute thrill, because you knew exactly what was going on. You at Eurovision, it was incredible. Yeah,
because you'd almost kind of seen the trailer for it before you'd actually done it.
It was something we'd always wanted to do, and actually get in there was amazing. I didn't have just the writer and producer song. I didn't have a great deal to do, so I was able to sort of go out to Greece and just sort of hang out and just enjoy the whole spectacle. Whereas
did you get to go in the film? There's like the film of before each of the countries play. They go through a little film where they introduce. I mean, was it just the singer?
It was just Daz.
You didn't get a little cameo in that then?
Can't even remember what happened, but I was looking. I bought a new jacket because I was very much looking forward to sitting in the green room as all the points came in and waving at the camera to everybody at home. Because at the very least, you thought we'd have got 12 points from Ireland, and the camera would have swooped across to us, and we'd all be sat there. We'd all go word, but no full scores at all across the board for Teenage Life. So I couldn't write that jacket off as a tax expense.
Oh, but yeah, at the end of the day, some of the best songs on that program, which have deserved to win and never got there.
There's some great songs really buried in Eurovision history that sort of people have long since forgotten about. I'm not saying ours is one of them, but I'm saying that ours is one of them. Yeah,
and they should all be resurrected, I feel, at some point.
What, the career of Daz Sampson, you mean?
I think so, yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, no, totally. What else? You've got some fascinating things behind you on there. What's the little character just above your head that you've got?
We've got some little Spray Lego figures, not commercially available. Just somebody sent them to me.
But you've made them, or someone's made them for you, yeah?
Yeah, assorted Pet Shop Boys things there. I just tilt the thing there. There's a the synthesizer that we made this new spray album on. It's only there because it's a nice bright yellow colour and it looks good on a shelf.
But yeah, well, look, if you've got something that colour, use it.
You don't need to tuck it away in a drawer, do you?
Yeah, no, exactly. I always felt that little that way a little bit about orange amps. You know, I mean, they do sound great, but the best thing about them is that they're orange, right? I mean, let's face it, if you've got up on stage, if you've got a bank of orange amps behind you, it just looks so much better than black.
It does. I don't understand why more companies don't get into this gimmicky colouring.
Yeah, why not have, you know, some purple ones and some red ones, and why not? You know, why make everything black, for goodness sake?
Exactly.
How incredibly boring. So in terms of the latest spray, that's great, isn't it? The latest spray. What can we expect?
It's an album of synth pop music. I said this a few times that when lockdown started, we found ourselves on opposite sides of Lancashire, the two of us.
Yeah.
And we recorded separately for the first time. I did the music and Jennifer did the vocals. Normally we sort of get together and we get together and everybody works together. It's a mishmash of ideas, but we work separately on this one, which was very interesting, unusual. But we had this idea of doing a very quick, spiky, sort of almost acid house thing with that synthesizer over the summer, but it evolved over as lockdown and the pandemic dragged on and on and on and got longer and longer. We ended up making a slightly more elaborate album, but it's our typical spray, zany, wacky pop album, but with a tinge of sadness because it was done during lockdown.
Yeah.
Did you find a tinge of melancholy about it?
And you can say this because your sister's not here.
She's a cow. She's a cow.
Did you find that not being in the room, that actually that made you work in a very different way? Did you find you were actually more productive doing that?
To a certain extent, yes. When we're in the room together, essentially what happens, Jennifer stands at the mic and I sit at the desk and we sort of work out what's going on. I press start and she sings and all that happens. And after a while, we get sick of each other's company and we rush things along to try and get the session finished. But with this way, Jenny could just sort of wander into the studio, we'd sit up in her flat and do whatever she likes at any time. Yeah. And there was a much more relaxed feel about it. So I don't know if it comes across in the records or the songs. But it was a much more there's a little bit more experimentation going on because we had time to do it. I say we had time to do it. We've always had time to do it. But our patience wasn't stretched to breaking point like it normally is.
Well, I can kind of understand that. And I mean, I've been in bands where there's been a lot of tension in the band as well. But I've also been in bands where we've had so much fun every time we're in a room, right? But sometimes even that's distracting, even when you really get on well with people, because it's like you'll go for a song and then you go, oh, and then someone will just play a little something and you just go, I just keep doing that. Just keep doing that, you know. And half an hour later, you've jammed on that, but you've got no intention of actually doing anything.
It's so easy to get distracted by things, and then, it's also so easy to get sick of things. However much you get on with people, if you're stuck in a studio with them for 12 hours day in, day out, you're going to get sick of them. And by the same token, if you really get on with people and you just start messing about, like you say, you start messing about and having fun with it, and nothing gets done. So it's problematic. Spray have always been a sort of a studio band anyway. We've only recently started playing live, and it's we enjoy playing live a lot more now because we get to spend time together, but we don't get to spend the whole day together.
There's been a resurgence in the last few years of electronic bands that have gone a bit more poppy. I feel, that have got those kind of elements. They've harked back to the 80s and the 90s, and they've kind of picked up on some of those sounds, and people are trying to make songs that are a little bit more poppy again. Is there anyone in particular out there that you feel you've listened to of late that you thought, oh, that's great, I really understand what you're trying to do with that?
I tell you, I like a commercial pop artist. They're me. me in my decrepit middle age, liking Radio 1 pop music is very unusual. But I think Ava Max is that sort of thing. She does this great 80s vibe about it still sounds modern and commercial and Radio 1, but there was this 80s-ness about it that isn't too obvious. Like the things like The Weekend that was #1 and all
that's really obvious.
Influence stuff. It's very obvious, but the people like Ava Max and I tell you what else, the Lil Nas X record, what was it called? The one that was out recently.
Yeah.
That's what I like. It's got these 80s influences in it without being in your face. It's not saying, hey, it's the 80s. It's just these nice wide chords and expansive productions and catchy melodies.
Yeah.
And it's that they're taking the best elements of synth pop of the old days, but not treating it with too much reverence, I think is the case.
Yeah. In other words, it's not a complete template. It's just it's sampling in a way.
There's been a lot of. I tell you what, there's been the past decade or so, not many chords in pop music. People have found a chord and stayed on it. It's been very monotonous, and now people are finding that if you go up and down the scales, a few more different chords, and it sort of feels more 80s. Maybe it's just music, who knows? But chords seem to be coming back. There's my tip for the top. Chords seem to be coming back into fashion.
Triads, folks.
That's the fellas.
Get back into your triads. Right? 3 fingers. That's all you need. 3 fingers. Most of the time, 3. It's the magic number.
And one for the bass line as well.
Yeah, keep one for the bass line, but get those chords back in. Get them happening again. Yeah. Well, Marvin, and because the thing is, when you think about great pop music, and you clearly like the Pet Shop Boys, etc., and you think about bands like when they came in, Aha, etc. as well. Everybody knows those little lines. I mean, brilliant, right? Brilliant. Everybody loves those little melodic lines, and and things like Soul to Soul, and even things like that. Where you had all those chords going, and as you say,
there's hooks and things that people. I've often talking about Pet Shop Boys again. You can look at the Pet Shop Boys for this as well. In the Imperial Fairs Pet Shop Boys, when they're having #1s every other week, you could always hear hooks, and not just the vocal melody. It was things like the bass line in West End Girls and the little keyboard riff in Suburbia, and that weird bit in Heart. Everything was a hook. There's loads of them riddled throughout the songs. And lately, I still love the Pet Shop Boys, still the greatest band in the world, but they don't do hooks anymore. Everything's very linear and sensible and straight. You can listen to a Pet Shop Boys bass line. It's nothing special. It's nothing out of the ordinary.
It's not as exciting as it used to be.
You listen to you could sing the West End Girls bass. Boom, boom,
boom, boom, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, exactly.
You couldn't sing the bass line of a more recent Pet Shop Boys song. It's those little hooks that I miss out of pop music. But again, maybe I'm old and decrepit.
There you go. Maybe people could comment as this goes round. This little interview goes round in the ether. In the next week or so, with your favourite bassline hook. There you go.
Yeah, just type in the bassline and see if everybody else can guess what the bassline is.
It's our version of Nevermind the Buzzcocks. If John and I were doing Nevermind the Buzzcocks, we'd be doing bassline hooks. There you go. That's what it'd be called.
I used to get asked to go on Buzzcocks all the time to be on the the identity parade, but they've lost the Cuban Boys Top of the Pops clip in the archive. They need a clip to show so that they can compare and contrast with the people who are on stage. And nobody can find the Cuban Boys Top of the Pops appearance in the archive.
Oh, and you don't have it?
I've got it on a VHS cassette, but that's obviously not good enough for them.
No. Can you get that taken off the VHS cassette? Now there's a really good question. In fact, if anybody is listening who runs one of those companies which very carefully can transfer from VHS to disc, then can you get in touch with John?
It's on YouTube in a very low quality. If anybody wants to see the Cuban Boys Top of the Pops performance, it has been digitized at some point in rock history. It has been digitized. Yeah,
I'm going to watch it straight after this.
It's not brilliant.
It's not all that.
They asked us to go on Top of the Pops, and we didn't really have an act. So we said, well, we'll stand there. We'll be covered in cobwebs, but we'll get John Peel to come down. He can sit in a rocking chair in the middle of the stage. One of these great rock clips that everybody will remember forevermore. John Peel agreed to do it to the extent they gave him a dressing room and everything. But unfortunately, the day of filming, he couldn't do it because he was doing home truths or something. So we ended up with us just standing covered in cobwebs, just standing still on the stage. Now, Kraftwerk can pull that off. They can pull off standing still, but we couldn't really do it. It's not the most exciting of performances.
Well, the only other way you could do that is remember. I don't know whether you remember Fish from Marillion.
Oh yes,
the famous and rip up the lyrics in front of you.
We had no lyrics, although that might have been funny as well. We could have done that.
That could have been funny. There's no lyrics. There's another one, isn't there? There you go. You see, as soon as you start thinking of those little hooks,
they're all there.
They all come.
It's not just the catchy choruses or the melodies that people remember. It's just tiny little elements. The oh yeah in the middle of Dancing Queen, that kind of thing. When everything stops. And when things stop as well, those little moments where all the songs just suddenly stops and falls off a cliff and starts again. That's a hook. Silence.
It is.
Top production tips.
And any drummer will tell you that what you don't play is as important as what you do.
I could not agree more.
There you go.
Not often I agree with drummers, but that is it. Yes.
That's it. Yeah. Well, you know the joke about drummers, don't you?
I know many.
Yeah. Well, what's your favourite drummer joke?
What's the difference between a drummer and a drum machine? You only have to punch the information into a drum machine once.
Yeah, exactly. Ding. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So listen, just to end on, John, and you've been an absolute star of a guest. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
In terms of one of the things that I often ask people is if you could work with someone, alive or dead, who would that be?
Alive, preferably, yeah.
Yeah. Go because it would be quite.
It'd stink otherwise.
Costs a lot of money to exhume someone as well. So, you know, for the purposes of probably quite useless, wouldn't it? But yeah.
Who would I like to work with? We've never really thought about it. I mean, we once met Sparks. Sparks are a big favourite of ours. We once met them, and they seemed very nice. And I always thought, wouldn't that be good to do something with Sparks? Then Franz Ferdinand went and did it, and they ruined my dream.
It ruined your dream.
I mean, it's a great record. Don't get me wrong, but you know, they won't be doing that again. And now, of course, Sparks are now famous because of the films they've made this year, so they're far too big to even contemplate that. But no, I don't. I always prefer collaborations with people you wouldn't expect, you wouldn't think of.
Exactly.
No big deal. But I once made a record with Glenn Campbell. No big deal.
Glenn Campbell. Really?
Yeah. And we didn't really know who he was. We went to his house because he's got a studio in the back of his house, and I think if we'd have known how famous and successful and legendary he was, we'd have been a bit more intimidated at the time. But we didn't really know who he was. So we had a great time with Glenn. He's a lovely fella. He was a lovely fella.
Yeah. So maybe a TV personality then, or a sports person or someone like that you really wouldn't expect.
Yeah. All right. I don't know anything about sport, but if anybody can suggest a sports personality who wants to make a record with me, and I can rope in Daz Sampson as well from the old days. Yeah.
I mean, singing would be being able to sing or play something particularly good would be an option. I think
we've got machines to do that nowadays.
Well, yeah, but it would be nice to really surprise people, though, wouldn't it?
If I knew any sports stars, I'd mention one now and say, "Oh, we'll make an opera record with Ian Shearer or somebody." But I don't know any sports stars. I'm not really up on it, so I can't make a funny joke.
Tom Daly.
That's the fella. I've heard of him. He does swimming, doesn't he?
He's the diver, isn't he?
Well, he must swim at some point then. Once he's landed.
Yeah. So you could write a song called Diving.
Arc of a Diver. That was one by Steve Winwood, wasn't it? Yeah. Arc of a Diver by Steve Winwood. We'll do a cover version of that.
That's brilliant, isn't it? That's the New Year #1.
Yeah. I'll rush it out. If you're watching, get in touch.
Yeah, I'm going to tag him in the post now.
Do it. We'll see what happens.
Just to see if he watches. Yeah. Who dares wins. That's what they say. my friend, it's been an absolute pleasure talking
Well,
to
thank
you
you. Yeah,
today.
it's been an enjoyable way to spend an afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time. I hope your sister watches. Say hi. Hi. Yeah.
Hello.
if you're watching, you missed it.
Yeah.
It was over here. Yeah, good. Now, in terms of where people can get, before we go, in terms of where people can listen to Spray and get Spray music, tell us
Get
where.
Spray music in your ears on all the streaming platforms, but all social medias under the name Spray Pop Music. One word, Spray Pop Music. All social medias, you can find us on there.
Yeah, and if there's options to actually buy the music, do that, because that's great.
Yeah.
You know.
Or buy the t-shirts. We've got a bag full of t-shirts over there.
Thank you. That's what it's all about.
7-inch singles. Please buy those.
You've got it, sir. I have to tell other guests about this, but this is the way forward, right? I personally think this is the way forward with music. My little thing that I've come up with is that every band out there should just have a t-shirt with all of the streaming platforms on the back with I listen to on, you know, it's fine. Promote the streaming platforms. Promote them.
At the very least, badges or stickers.
Yeah, exactly. I listen to Spray on Spotify. Yeah, then
it's a brilliant idea. I'm gonna do it. As soon as this is finished, I'm gonna get onto awesome merchandise and get some ordered.
Perfect. When I come to see you sometime, in a pub, I mean, you won't be playing because this is mainly not a live band.
We do play live.
Are you gonna do something live in the Southwest at all?
There is somebody was mentioning something about doing something in London, certainly in March, and we plan to go south to Brighton and then across to Newport before the pandemic hit. So we are trying to get down to the southern areas of the country,
southern regions, the
regions. And we're very keen to, because we're very keen to expand our audience. We just play to people who like us at the minute. We'd like to play to people who hate us.
I'd like to think that the people of Bristol or Exeter would love you, John.
Exeter, we're keen to go to Exeter. What's that? I wish I'd thought of this now. There's a place called Topsham or Topsham in Essex.
Yeah, Topsham. Yeah.
There's a hall there, that was dedicated and built by an ancestor of ours, James Woodrow Matthews, who was an ancestor, great uncle of ours.
What's it like, a village hall?
Yeah, it's the Topsham Matthews Hall or something. We've always been keen to go down there and play a show there.
You've got to hire that hall and play it.
We thought that would be a great idea. And it would make our families proud for the first time ever.
If you do it, I'll help you promote it.
Yes, we'll do it then.
Done. Right, there we go. Watch out for Spray in the new year in Topsham near Exeter. It's even signposted from the motorway. There we go.
Excellent.
Sir, it's been an absolute pleasure. I will speak to you soon. Take care. Have a good life. Bye for now.